used to go to practices and games with my friends' parents because my parents couldn't go because they were working. So I was the kid at those games, participating in those games that didn't have a parent in the stands watching them. And as a kid, when you're playing in sports, and I use sports because it's been a big part of my life ever since I was younger. But as a kid, when you're playing sports, you don't care about all the fans in the stands. You want to see the people that love you, your parents, your family.
Welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast, where we bring to you the most successful, happy, fulfilled gentlemen from around the world who have been able to conquer themselves, their life, their marriage, and their businesses. You will be learning from four-dimensional gentlemen who have cracked the code to the science of having it all. The question is, how can married entrepreneurs with kids become gentlemen, achieve true freedom, and build a successful, happy, and fulfilled life, marriage, and business? This show will give you the answer for that. My name is Alex Ramirez, and I'm your host, and you're welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, Fulfillment Talk podcast. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. Today, I'm excited for this awesome guest that I have. As you can see over there behind him, you might be guessing what is it that we're going to be talking about, right? For dads, about dads, being dads. And I'm very excited for this one. But before I introduce this gentleman to you, I just want to give a big shout out to all of you who have been leaving comments, reviews, and likes on all the major podcasting platforms, Apple, Google, and Spotify. And to those who have been watching on YouTube as well, thank you very much. You are the reason why we do what we do. And today, I want to ask you for a favor. I want to ask you that if you get something out of this interview, if you get some type of value, some type of insights, information, skill, the inspiration to go out and be a better dad, I want to ask you to please share this episode with 10 people out there, with 10 men who may want to be a better dad. Share it with 10 people. Share it on social media, through message, through text, whatever. Since this is how we grow, this is how we're able to share our message and motivate, inspire, and bless other men out there to be better dads. So today I have Bryan Ward. He's a husband and proud father of 2 sons. He's a Marine Corps veteran and has spent the last 18 years as a basketball coach for youth basketball and is now a school varsity basketball coach for a private Christian high school in California. And he's the creator of a top-rated podcast called Dad Up Podcast, as you can see behind him. And over the past 2 years, he's been focusing on helping dads become the best dads that they can be for their families. He has coached countless of fathers on learning the tools and strategies on parenting, which I'm very excited to talk about. And he's also been featured on radio and newspapers. So, Bryan, thank you very much for being here. I'm excited to get into this one, man. And you are welcome, Bryan.
Thank you very much for having me, man. I've been looking forward to this. Obviously, you and I got an opportunity to chat before you started recording. So it's been nice to get to know you a little bit better. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this, and hopefully, as I had said earlier, hopefully that noise in the background from my neighbor doesn't interfere. But thank you for having me, brother.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. And the first question that the first thing that I do with my guests is I tell them to walk us through their entrepreneurial journey in 75 seconds or less. And I don't know if I should ask that, or a better question would be walk us through your parenting journey in 75 seconds or less. What do you think?
Well, I guess I'll have to go with parenting because I mean, even though I have a podcast, I'm technically not a full-fledged entrepreneur. I actually work in corporate America. So this is just, my side hustle,
Let's go with the second question then. So man, walk us through your parenting journey, through your journey of being a father in 75 seconds or less.
That's impossible, Alex. Come on, bro. You know how old my boys are?
Just give us like the overview and then we'll dive deeper into that. Yeah.
Man, the way I grew up, I had, my parents are, still married to this day. And they were
nice.
Blue collar workers. I was a very active boy in school when I grew up, participated in sports, swim team, water polo team, wrestling team. But I have to tell you, Alex, I participated in Little League and soccer, all these different sports. I used to go to practices and games with my friends' parents because my parents couldn't go because they were working. So I was the kid at those games, participating in those games that didn't have a parent in the stands watching them. And as a kid, when you're playing in sports, and I use sports because it's been a big part of my life ever since I was younger. But as a kid, when you're playing sports, you don't care about all the fans in the stands. You want to see the people that love you, your parents, your family. And I can count on one hand how many times they came to a game or an event that I was participating in. So that really impacted me and carried me through my life, because I knew that when I had kids, when I grew up and had a family, that I wasn't going to do that. I wanted to be at everything that my kids did. I wanted to be participating and involved in everything that they did. That was my goal as a dad, because I knew how much it impacted me when I would look up in the stands and not have family there. And that's not a detriment to my parents. They were working, they were doing what they had to do to provide for the family. They had hours that they had to put in. They just couldn't be there. But I wasn't going to be that way with my kids, and I wasn't. I coached every single one of their sports all the way up through high school. I went to every single one of their school events, parent-teacher conferences, open houses, performances, whatever they were involved in, I was there because it was important. And I knew how important it would be to them. They may not understand it at the time, but they'll know when they get older how involved I was. So that I probably did it in less than 75 seconds, but that in a nutshell is my parenting journey.
Nice. I love it. Trying to be the best version of yourself because of missing parents, right? Like, and not missing like from your life, but missing from little things that were important for you, right? That for you were not so little, which is having them at your games, right? Yeah, man, that's really, so how did it affect you?
Well, again, when I think about just being a coach, I've coached a ton of teams. I've coached thousands of kids. And just knowing that the players, some of the players that I've coached, not knowing who their parents were and knowing the level of impact that has on those players, on that kid, I knew what they were feeling. I knew how they were thinking. That affected me big time because as a player myself growing up, that's your support system, right? They're your support system. They're your guide. That's the family that loves you. And to not see them in the stands cheering for you, it really impacts a child.
It does. Yeah. Like their validation, approval, and acceptance is everything that you're looking for, right? Like they're your heroes. And yeah, you're looking to be validated, approved, accepted, and loved by them. And then if that's not, that's not the case, then yeah, I can see how, it would be really impactful.
Listen, my parents, like I said, this isn't a, I'm not trying to knock on the fact that they weren't there. There wasn't a day that didn't go by that my dad didn't tell me that he loved me. So I had that. It's just their involvement wasn't there because they had jobs, they had to work. And listen, I know that there are parents out there that may be watching this that go, hey, that's great, Alex and Bryan, that's great, but I just can't be there for every single one of my kids' events. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that you need to be there for every single one like I was. I'm saying do what you have to do to sacrifice in areas where you have to sacrifice in order to make the best possible chance of you making something that they're participating in because it's important to them. When I was coaching my boys when they were in high school and I was coaching them, there were times, I work in corporate America. So there were times that, I would have to leave at 2:00 to go coach a basketball game. Well, what I would do was so I could leave and my job would understand why I'm leaving. I would get to the office at 4 a.m. so I could leave at 2 to be there. Yeah. So I sacrificed in other areas of my life. So that way I made sure I was there for my boys.
Awesome. So I'm curious, Bryan, what age did you become a father?
I was 24. Well, 23. Yeah, I was about my son's age now. So yeah. I was fresh out of the Marine Corps, just started a job in banking. My wife and I had just gotten married and we moved into our first apartment. And it wasn't shortly thereafter us being married that she was pregnant. And it was exciting because it was what I wanted. I wanted a family. My wife wanted kids. And so we were excited about it. So yeah, I think it was about 23, to answer your question.
Cool. I'm glad that you were excited. It was, not the same case for me. So walk me through that journey of becoming a father, because like next time that I become a father again, I'm expecting it to be a lot better and like full of happiness and stuff. But yeah, walk me through your journey.
Yeah, it's interesting. My journey started off a little rough. My older son, when he was born almost 6 weeks early, so he was 5.5 weeks premature, and we didn't know what that meant. We didn't know what was going to be involved, but he was born and had to be rushed into the NICU because he had collapsed lungs because he was underdeveloped.
Yeah.
Now he was still a big boy. He was just around 5 pounds when he was born. So he was fairly good size for being 6.5 weeks premature. However, when he went into the ICU, he had one lung that was collapsed. He had to go on an oscillating machine, which is basically a ventilator for babies. So he had to go on an oscillator to help him breathe. He had IVs in him. He had, all kinds of different machines and everything all over him. But he was in the NICU for 2.5 weeks before we were able to bring him home. And I have to tell you, that was the most scary thing that my wife and I have ever gone through, because here we are, we're brand new parents, excited for this new journey, this new chapter that we're on. And now we're getting hit right in the gut with this reality of not knowing what was really going on with our son, or what was going to be the result of all of this that he was going through. And even though had the reassurance of the nurses and the doctors that were working on him that he was going to be fine, you still have this, just this knot in your stomach of, okay, you say that, but is that really the case? Because we'd never been through it. So we didn't know what to expect. We knew nothing about it, about what he was going through. Now with technology and the doctor's knowledge and medicines and all that kind of stuff, he was going to be fine. But for us to go through those first 2.5 weeks of his life, not knowing what was going to come out of all of this, was pretty scary. And 2.5 weeks later, he was able to come home. He was just a little over 5 pounds. He was a small boy, just a little over 5 pounds. And he's fine. I mean, he's healthy. And I mean, these are him. These are my boys right here. This is him right here. Excuse me. This is him. This is him right here. But, I know the picture's kind of a glare, but, I'm 5'10" and he's 6'3". So he's doing fine.
Yeah. He's a big boy. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Damn, man. So, I had my own experience with, my baby being born at 5.5 months of gestation, right? Very, very young, very, very early. I mean, and, we had to, she was in the NICU for like more than 4 months, for almost 5 months. And then still, when we took her home, she still looked like a premature baby, right? Like it was really bad. It was like a long time. And yeah, it was like really painful. So I have an idea of what you might have been through. But I'm glad that everything is fine, man. Right? Thank God everything turned out to be fine. And that's awesome.
It's interesting. We went through that experience, and you'd think that we could handle anything, knowing that we have this brand new baby at home. We're really excited. He came home just before Christmas, so that was super exciting. And a couple years later, we have another boy. And this journey that we went on with my second son was a little different than my first. My second son was 2.5 weeks early, but he was almost 10 pounds. So he was a big boy at 2.5 weeks early. So he was fine. However, when he was born, my wife went through a traumatic experience post delivery, where she ended up losing enough blood. She lost blood, and her heart rate dropped, and she ended up losing enough blood to fill 2 people. And
Damn.
I remember being pushed out of the room by the doctors because she was going into shock. And I remember them wheeling her out of the room with her own doctor up on the bed and the nurses were wheeling her out, and he was up on the bed and he was doing chest compressions on her and hooking her up to different machines. I had no clue what was going on. I had not a clue. I got taken to her regular room, and the doctor came down about an hour later or so and said, Bryan, I have to be honest, we were within seconds of losing her.
Damn.
And so she had went into a shock where she lost a ton of blood, and she ended up being in the ICU for about 2 weeks. They had her on a dialysis machine. She was a type 1 diabetic, so they had her on a dialysis machine. She had her diabetic doctor. There was a neurologist there, making sure that her brain was going to be operating, functioning properly when she was recovered. But they had her in a medically induced coma because they had to keep her calm. All the meanwhile, I had this healthy baby boy that was in the the prenatal unit, or the, what do we call it, the prenatal unit. But I had this brand new baby boy that was staying in the hospital that I was visiting, but I was spending a lot of time with my wife because she was, going through her issue. And that was just an experience that, to go from one of my sons having his experience and then my second son having this experience with my wife. It was pretty daunting, traumatic experience that I went through as a brand new father to now a 2-year-old and a newborn, a brand new father to have to go through. That's not the case for everybody. A lot of people out there obviously have very healthy and normal pregnancies, but the 2 experiences that I had with my wife and our 2 boys was very much different.
Yeah.
But it all worked out. My wife ended up coming out of it just fine. And
I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that.
My youngest son is also 6'3", and so everybody's fine.
Yeah, everyone's fine. Yeah, I was seeing the pictures, and they're big guys, right? So very healthy, very big guys. So man, yeah, 2 traumatic experiences. I'm actually looking forward for my next pregnancy. My daughter. So my mom's son. What is he to me? Brother, my brother. Right?
Your
So my
mom's son is your brother, bro.
Yeah, I forgot the word brother for some reason. But my brother is like we're 80 years in difference, right? So like we never had a relationship. Like we grew up, and I was like already like 10 years old and he was 1, and like there was really nothing to talk about, right? And like that's how we grew up. So we didn't grow up like really close together. And my daughter's about to be 3. So like I already want to have another baby just so that they can like grow together and not be so far apart in terms of age. And I'm looking forward for the next pregnancy and like to become a father once more. But I'm scared. I'm scared, man. Awesome. I'm really, really scared. I don't know. Like I think, I've thought of this, that maybe, God, despite everything that happened, and you heard my story right now, right? But despite, and people from that listen to my podcast have heard my story before. Despite everything that happened, I ended up with a very healthy child, right? So maybe God was like trying to give me a lesson. And now, despite doing everything like in the right way, having a good pregnancy, giving the wife, the vitamins and everything she needs, ending up with a child that is not healthy. Like that would crush me, man. And I'm very scared. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's
I'm traumatized.
I know, but I think it's normal to have that I guess that uncertainty in the back of your mind of, what could happen with, the second time around. But keep in mind, I mean, things like this happen all the time. And like I said, there are plenty of moms out there and parents out there that give birth and have very normal pregnancies and everything goes fine, regardless of if they've went through something before or not. So, I mean, I guess it would be normal to have the level of nervousness or uncertainty or being scared the second time around, but I wouldn't let that
keep me from the pleasure of having another kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So, man, so let's talk about being a dad then, right? Because I mean, that's what I'm trying. Like, I'm trying to be the best dad that I can. In these past 3 years, like the attitude that I've taken is that I don't know anything, right? And I have a family coach, I have a fitness coach, I have a finance coach, I have like people that are helping me in every single area of my life. And I love having you here and get to hear your opinion, your experience, some of your knowledge, your wisdom, and get you to share with us to like become the best dads that we can be.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I think back to my parenting journey, and there's plenty of areas that I messed up as a dad. And there are plenty of areas that my boys would tell you, yeah, you messed up there, or yeah, you didn't do this right as a dad. But at the end of the day, keep in mind, Alex, at the end of the day, we don't really have any true guide that really tells us how to be a dad. We have our experiences from our own father, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I know your story, right? And we have the experiences around us, meaning the people that are dads that have shaped us or can help guide us or coach us. Those kind of experiences are all that we have to go on to be a good dad. So I think a lot of it comes from just trial and error. But there are plenty of things that I would do different. With my boys, for instance, there are times when as a dad, I messed up where I lost my temper too quick, or I got frustrated with them too quickly. Different things like that I wish I could take back, because our kids are relying on us as to be their role model, to be their guide, and to help them through things. And they're going to make mistakes. They're going to mess up, but we want to be able to teach them the right way. And part of that comes through communication and how we communicate with our kids. So if there's anything that I could tell you as a dad, Alex, that would be, make sure that you're constantly talking to your daughter and communicating with her at a level that she understands, and not at a level that you understand, at a level that she understands. That would be first. And second, make sure you're not overreacting or reacting too quickly to things that she does or doesn't do, because that will have an impact on her as she's growing up. So I think those areas are areas that I wish I could improve upon. I wish I had done different as a dad. And just in the last 5-6 years, I've been working on improving those areas of my life as a dad. My boys are 23 and 20 now. So the ways that I talk to them and the way that I interact with them and the things that they do or don't do, I react to differently or respond to differently. That's probably one of the most important things you can do as a dad. And I'm speaking to any parent that's on this. It could be moms too, but any parent that's listening to this or watching this, but also you, Alex, I'm telling you as a dad, make sure that you're responding and reacting to things appropriately and in a way that your daughter understands. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really, man, 100%. Because, and like reacting, controlling the way that you react, to not overreact or to not react too quickly, has a lot to do with putting yourself first, right? Because if you're not in check with your emotions and with, your own problem. Sorry for the interruption. If you're an aspiring, established coach, course creator, author, and speaker, I want to extend an invitation to check out my free training on the podcast Cloak Track Framework by clicking on the link in the description of this podcast. On this training, you're going to learn how combining podcasting with a rare concept that very few people know about called the Cloak Track can help you build a multi-million-dollar network of successful people who can become your clients, put you in front of hundreds of your ideal clients with your message, coaching, courses, and books, help you become a best-selling author, get you booked to speak on stages, or even making an extra $237,600 in the next 6 months. Click on the link of the description of this podcast to learn about the 4 simple steps to make this work. Step number 1 is alignment. Aligning who you're trying to be, what you're trying to do, your goals and purpose with building your podcast so that podcasting is a vehicle to help you achieve your goals. Step number 2 is leveraging the Cloak Track to find an unlimited supply of your ideal podcast guest. Step number 3 is leveraging the Cloak Track to close an interview with anyone, no matter how rich, famous, or out of your league they may seem. And step number 4 is the content machine, which is the key to tapping into other people's audiences. These are the 4 steps to making the podcast Cloak Track Framework work, and I'm not going to hold anything back on this training. So click on the link in the description of this podcast, go and check it out. And once you've done that, if you feel like this would help, we also have a complimentary free absolutely free alignment call to get you started and show you exactly how to implement everything. Get access to the training right now, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. Bye-bye. Problems, you'll react to whatever it is that it's going on, outside of you. And yeah, like I'm very aware. At least I try to be. I try to be very aware. So like yesterday we went to where did we go to? I don't know, to the movies. And my daughter, she threw juice on the car, and I felt right, like I felt the emotions coming up, and I was about to like start yelling and then telling her and yelling to her and saying that I told you not to do that, and then I stopped and I was like, no, like I didn't do it, right? Thank God. So I didn't do it. Then I was like, I just took the juice away from her, and that's it. Like she didn't cry anymore. The juice, the little juice was probably going to be dry in the next couple of minutes, and nothing happened, right? Like the problem was solved. But if I had been carried away by my emotions, by like this anger that came up, I would have yelled, and I didn't. So yeah, right, controlling the way that you react.
Because that causes listen, if you're gonna respond in the way that you didn't, if you had responded in the way that you thought were about to respond, it would have caused her to respond in a different way, right? She would have reacted in a different way than how she actually reacted. So they align with each other. So I think it's important that I'm glad that you did that. Obviously, she needs to be talked to kind of teach that, hey, there's more appropriate ways to handle, carrying the juice in the car.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you didn't react, and it caused her to just kind of forget about it.
Yeah. And then like if I had to react, right, like you said right now, your children are looking up to you, and you're their role model. So now you're teaching them that this is how you solve problems, right? This is how it's normal to react like that, because dad does it.
Right. That's exactly right.
So now they go out, and another kid takes their juice from them, and they'll like cry or yell or make a big deal about it, because that's what you're teaching them, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
more is caught than taught, right? So if they're seeing the way that you're reacting, they're catching how you react, and that shows them how they should react. And that's one of the areas that I wish that I had done differently with my boys. There were things that I reacted to that I didn't need to react to in a manner in the way that I did, and it caused further turmoil, right? So there were plenty of times where my wife would be like, "Hey, you need to check out for a minute. Let me handle this because you're a little heated right now, and you need to step away." It's okay to do that as a parent. If your child messes up or does something or doesn't do something that causes you to want to react in a way that's probably not appropriate, it's okay to step away. It's okay to say, you know what, I can't respond to this right now, because if I do, it's not going to go the direction that it needs to go. So I'm going to walk away, and we're going to handle this another time. And you can tell your child that. You can say, hey, listen, this is not appropriate right now. I'm going to respond in a way that I don't want to. So I'm going to refrain from responding. We'll handle this when we're both calm. When you are calm and when I'm calmer, we're going to handle this. But we're going to both take a break right now and walk away and step away as a parent, and then come back to it and sit down with them and talk to them at eye level. I always encourage talking to children at eye level.
Nice. I like that, man. And a lot of parents can't do that because they're walking around in adult bodies with teenage level of emotions, emotionally unstable. At least that's what I experienced growing up. Right? My mom had me.
Children do not know how to respond, react the right way. They are not in control of their emotions. Children are not in control of their emotions. So teaching them to respond appropriately, or teaching them how to keep their emotions under control through you responding and reacting the way that you need to, is the best thing to do.
Yeah, everything starts with you. And you know something, man? I'm actually very proud of like me and myself as a dad, because my mother just had another baby, and we were 21 years apart, right? She's 1 or about to be 2. And my daughter is 3. She's about to be 3. So they're the same age, right? So my daughter is older than my sister. That's crazy, right?
Right. Right. Your daughter is an aunt.
Yeah, exactly. She's an aunt of someone who's younger. Yeah. Oh no, of someone. Yeah, of someone who's younger. Yeah. And so yeah. So I'm very proud because like like your external world is a direct reflection of your internal world, right? Like if things are not going the way you like them, for you to like them the way you would like them to go in your external world, then check your internal world, right? And I think it's the same thing with being a dad, right? And just parenting, because like your kids are just a reflection of you, of like how you parent, of how you show up. Um, and I'm proud because like my mother hasn't learned. She's still that, immature, emotionally immature woman, right? And she doesn't treat my sister in the best way, right? Imagine how she treated me as a 15-year-old, right? And like you can see the difference, like when we get together, like my sister is like reactive, she's yelling, you can see her behavior, and my daughter is much more calmer and like grounded, and yeah, she wants to play and everything, right? But my sister fights, my daughter doesn't. She yells and cries, my daughter is just like, okay, here you go, I'll give it to you so that you don't cry. So and that so there's always improvement, there's always like improvement. And I'm not like judging, I'm just like observing, and I'm like, okay, I can see, right? And because I believe that your kids are just a reflection of how you show up at home. And then when you have parents in public yelling at their kids for behaving the way that they do, it's absurd to me, because the reason that they behaving that way is because that's how you show them to behave at home. So they're just like mimicking whatever it is that you do, however it is that you show up. But in reality, like they don't give a shit if you're in public or in private, right? Like kids, they don't, like they can't, so they just do whatever it is that they know how to do.
Right. It's just a natural response for them based on how they see and react with you. It's a natural response to them, whether they're in public or not. So
Yeah.
they don't distinguish the two. But that's part of the lesson. That's part of the lesson to teach them how to respond and react to things in public. There are plenty of times when my boys were little that, they threw temper tantrums. And I see a lot of parents that are in stores and their kids throwing a temper tantrum because they want a toy, and the mom or the dad says, no, you can't have that right now. But they get in this mood and they throw this fit because they want this toy, and then the parents go ahead and give them the toy just to shut them up. And it drives me nuts, because my boys were little, that didn't happen. If they threw a fit because they didn't get something that they wanted, we were out of the store. I remember a specific time we were standing in line at a register, and my son was throwing a fit, and we ended up literally leaving the cart in the line and leaving, because we wanted to show my son, this is not how you act in public, and you're not going to get your way because you want something. We're not going to
By
just
acting
hand it to
that
you
way.
to get you to be quiet. This is not how you behave. And we ended up leaving in the middle of the store. We ended up leaving because we weren't going to allow him to control the environment that we were in.
Cool, I like that. So that is how you solve that problem, right? Instead of giving them whatever it is that they want so that they can shut up, and you give it to them and they shut up because you gave it to them. Now they know how to solve their problems whenever they want something, right? I just have to cry and make this scene, and my parents will give me whatever it is that I want. But no, you leave. Like, I like that, man.
Yeah, because listen, at the end of the day, you're raising these kids to be productive members of society. You want them to go off into life and be able to live productively and be good human beings. And if you teach your kids those kinds of things, when they get older and they're moving out of the house, and then life does hit them on the chin, and they think that that's how they're supposed to react to it, they will react the same way that they reacted when they were younger, by throwing a fit, and it's not going to get them anywhere in life. So it's important to teach these lessons to our kids when they're younger, and help them understand it, and teach them responsibility, teach them maturity, and teach them common values of being a person.
Nice. So man, I end my interviews with 5 questions, but before I ask them to you, I just want to ask about any other like stories or lessons that you've learned from parenting, and as well as core values that you may have core values that your family lives by. So you have anything else to share before I start asking those 5 questions?
There's a million stories I could tell you, Alex.
Of course.
I mean, there were times as a dad that, I'll give you one example that I messed up as a father. I put the label Father of the Year sarcastically on my forehead because I messed up. My son was playing flag football. I was a coach on the flag football team. And shortly before practice, he had fallen. He and a couple other kids were roughhousing, and right before practice, and he had fallen and hurt his wrist. And being a dad and having a boy, the one thing that we tell our boys, brush it off, you're fine, move on, right? Well, I was doing that, and my son kept telling me his wrist was hurting, and I said, look, dude, suck it up. You got a sprain. You got to take it easy on it, but you got a sprain. Relax, you're fine. Well, a couple of days go by, and he says his wrist still hurts, and it's really bad. And I was being a jerk. I really thought he was just looking for attention. I thought he was just, wanting me to I guess, coddle him. But I was being a jerk. And I just said, dude, you're going to have to forget about it. You have a sprain. When you have a sprain, it just needs to heal on its own. There's nothing we can do about it. It doesn't make sense to take you to the doctor. Well, almost a week went by, Alex, and his wrist was not any better. He was complaining about it more and more. And so I finally got frustrated and said, okay, it's been a week. He's still complaining about it. So there must be something else going on. I took him to the doctor, and it was broke. And so
it was what?
The doctor came in, it was broke.
Damn.
So when the doctor came in and said, yeah, he's got a broken wrist, he looked at me, my son looked at me and said, see, I told you, Dad. And I looked at him and said, wow, I'm sorry. I messed up. I really thought it was just this
humble pie right there.
I feel like Dad of the Year right now,
yeah.
It's just, so I just tell that story because it's something that, sometimes when our kids go through traumatic experiences or they experience something that's bothering them, you really need to hone in on it and make sure that they're okay from it because, luckily that didn't turn out to be much more than just a break where he had to wear a cast. He ended up missing the season. But the good news is part of that lesson that I taught him through that time was that, look, even though your wrist is in a cast right now and you can't play, you're still going to show up to practice every single day. And you're still going to root for your teammates as they're practicing every single day.
Cool.
And you're still going to go to, and you know what, that bothered him because he's like, look, I'm not practicing. Well, I can't play. Why should I bother going? And well, because you are still part of the team. Even when you're hurt, you're still part of the team. And who knows, by God's miracle, that cast may come off early. And if you're able to get into a game, you need to know the plays. You need to understand the
nice,
the offense and the defense and all that kind of stuff. Cause he was playing, we were playing flag football. So lo and behold,
amazing way to respond, man. Amazing way to respond.
So he did. We brought him to every single practice, and I was a coach on the team, and there's a couple other dads that were coaches, and he was like one of our assistant coaches through the whole season. He was like one of our assistant coaches. So he was there every single practice, every single game, and he got the cast off and was able to play in the very last game of the season. Cool. And it was such a cool experience to get him to be able to get out there. And so we as coaches decided, since he was able to play, that we would have him start, and he was able to get out there and start as a starting player on the team, his very last game of the season. And it was really cool. But amazing. It was part of the lesson. I messed up as a dad, but I'm still going to hold you accountable as a player to show up, even though you're hurt. And so that's just one of the stories.
Two amazing lessons, man. First of all, listen to your kids, right? Because it's happened to me, right? Like my daughter is crying. Maybe she thought that the light off was scary. I don't think the light off is scary, but she does, right? And I got to be able to, get down to her level and realize that, she's young and, in her opinion, the light off is scary, right? And listen to her, maybe a little bit, teach her that there's really nothing to worry about instead of just ignoring her or being like, no, you're crazy or whatever, not listening to them, right? Not having empathy. And then the second thing, right? The way that you reacted, right? So, like a dad, but also keeping him accountable as a coach and showing him the values of perseverance and persistence and showing up for the team, right? Even if you're hurt. That was amazing, man. So if if and you mentioned how you have millions of stories, right? So if people want to hear more stories from you, where can they go? Like, where can we find the Data podcast? Is it everywhere?
Everywhere, anywhere you get your podcasts, and then on YouTube. Obviously, I got my YouTube channel as well. My website is Dad Up Tribe. That's my website. That's kind of the man group, the dad group that I call my dads. It's the Dad Up Tribe, but Dad Up Tribe website. And then I respond to messages on Instagram, Dad Up Podcast, my Instagram handle. They can send me a message there, and I can respond there. But yeah, that's best places.
Awesome, man. We'll put all of that wherever this appears. And I've had 5 questions for you.
Okay.
The first one, this is not the first question, but how old are you, man?
I'm way older than you.
Cool.
I'm almost 50.
Nice. Okay.
So
cool.
I'm 49.
So, okay. So if you could give your 20-year-old self some advice, what would that be?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because that's something that I've thought about lately a lot. I think that for me, what I would tell my 20-year-old is don't be afraid to take chances. Don't be afraid to take risks, because I think as a 20-year-old, you have a lot of uncertainty that you're facing, kind of getting out on your own and kind of living life on your own, right? I moved out of the house when I was 18, but I went right into the military, and the military helped me kind of grow up and mature as an adult. So I had that benefit. But as a 20-year-old, if I could go back and tell my 20-year-old self something, it would be, don't be afraid to take chances. Don't be afraid to take risks, because listen, in life, we're always going to have these risks and chances that we have to face. And if you're afraid to take them, you never know what you're going to miss out on. So don't be afraid to step up and take chances or risks.
I like that. If you don't take chances, you don't know what you're going to miss out on. Yeah, I like that. Right. Awesome. Thanks for that, man. So the next question is around mindset. What is one mindset shift that you think, is contributing to your success as a dad, or what is one mindset shift that you can share that would help other people become better dads?
Well, I think one of my mind shift mindset shifts that I do now as a dad that I didn't do when my boys were younger. And this really isn't so much about the mind, but part of it is I do journaling. So that's one of the things that I've really adapted to over the last couple of years. It's something that I never did before, never found the value in it, didn't really put myself out there to do it, but it's something that I do now. And the reason that I relate it to my mindset is because when people get up first thing in the morning, what are they thinking about when they first wake up? What do I have to do today? What stresses do I have to worry about? What am I going to take care of today? What do I need to do to accomplish something today? Or what's worrying me today, right? That's kind of the first kind of things that pop in our head when we first wake up. Well, for me, that was a big part of my life. That was me every single day. So part of the journaling that I go through now is I like to jot down everything that's right fresh in my mind when I first wake up. And it only takes me a minute or two, but I write down everything that I'm thinking of right now. And it just kind of gets everything that's in my mind off on paper and kind of helps relieve the stress or worry or anxiety that I may be experiencing when I first wake up. So yeah, that's more of a journaling issue and more of like, kind of something tangible instead of something more of in your mind, but that's a mindset shift that I make every single day.
That's really good, man. Journaling is amazing. I do it every single day. Well, most days, right? I've missed here and there, but I have what I call journal of love, right? And I have this journal of love for my mother, right? Since using it, I've been able to come at things not only from my perspective but also from hers. And I journal about our relationship, and it's really helped, right? And I've been journaling for the past 3 years, I mean, and it's really helped, right? It helps you get to know yourself. So yeah, that's a really awesome thing that I do as well. So thanks for sharing. Mindset map. So clarity. Do you have any advice for people who may lack or need some clarity, Bryan?
Well, I mean, if you're lacking or in need of clarity, I think the best thing that you can do is if you have, like you said, you have coaches in your life that kind of work with you and help you through different areas of your life. For me in particular, I actually have my own board of directors I'm really big on, I'll give you an example. Companies have board of directors to help them run the company to be successful, right? To help them move in a direction that they need to move to make that company successful. So why not us as individuals? Why can't we have a personal board of directors?
For
So I
life,
call
yeah.
these, I call these guys, there are 8 guys. I call them my personal board of directors. And we meet every other month via Zoom, and we talk about me. We talk about the things that I need to work on, the things that I need help on, the things that I'm doing great in. I have a guy that's a financial planner that's on my board of directors. I have another guy that's really big in his faith. I have a guy that's not even a dad on my board of directors, but he's really big in entrepreneurship. So he helps me in those areas. So these guys really kind of shape different areas of my life that I want to improve on and have clarity in. So yeah, it's something that I've done. So I would highly encourage, if you're watching this or listening to this and you have a personal coach that you work with, some of the top athletes, right? They have coaches that they work with. They're professional players.
Every elite performer gets help.
Yet they still have a coach.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Why not us as individuals? If we want to be better every single day, if we want to find a way to improve our life just by a certain small percentage every single day, I would highly encourage a coach. And if you have a coach, why not have a group of coaches? And that's what I call these guys. These guys are my personal board of directors. They're really like my coaches, my life coaches. So it's something that I do.
I had not heard it that way, like my personal board of directors. But yeah, I have like a personal board of directors for my life. Like I said, I have a family coach, a fitness coach, a spirituality coach, an emotional intelligence coach. I have a finance coach for business. And then I just started working with a high performance coach that is like optimizing me from the inside, right? Like I started working with him this past week in Wednesday. And the first thing that he got me to do was get some blood tests to see how to see how I am from the inside, which is I thought was very cool. And yeah, I'm working with him. So for every single aspect of my life, right? That's the way that you can improve, right? By standing in the shoulders of giants and people who already know what you may not know, because you don't even know what you don't know. So it makes sense to surround yourself with people who do know, right?
Right. And that's kind of the point of these guys that I meet with. They're all there's only one that I know in person. All the rest, I've never met them in my life, but they're, I've met them through social media and various other things, but they're all over the country. I got a couple guys that are in Canada. I got a guy in Florida. I got another one in Texas. I got a couple in California. I got one in Arizona, but we all meet together. They have an agenda. I write an agenda. I'll tell you something else I did. I went the full extent where I actually wrote up a contract for each one of them as my board of directors, like a board of director contract, and they had to read it and they had to sign it and they had to agree to it. And so they signed the contract, I signed the contract, and I have those contracts from them. And like I said, we meet once every other month, and I have an agenda that I send out to them prior to the meeting. And we just kind of run through the agenda. And there's been areas that they've given me hell in these meetings. Like, you're not doing this. You need to make sure you're doing this. Why aren't you doing this? Why didn't you do this last month? Those kind of things, they're truthful to me. They speak their mind. And I would highly encourage, if you are thinking about getting a board of directors, though, don't have anybody that's in your family on your board of directors. And I purposely don't have anybody in my family on my board of directors, because your family will tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear. So these guys they're very upfront with me and very honest with me. So it's been a huge help to me over the last few years.
Awesome, man. So 2 more questions. Motion. What is one habit that you have that you think is, as a dad, that you think is contributing to your success as a dad?
One habit. Gosh, I got several habits. One habit that I have, well, I'll tell you one that I used to have that I don't have anymore. And I like this one better because it's taught me a lot as a dad.
Okay.
And it's a habit that, it's something that I'm actually proud of now. I wasn't then, but being in the military, I tease people when they say, "How was your experience in the military?" And they tell me, and I tell them, listen, in the military, I learned 3 things. I learned how to cuss, I learned how to kill, and I learned how to drink. Those are the 3 things that I learned in the military, right? Yeah. So one of the things that I did as a dad was I was a heavy drinker, and I had major issues with alcohol when my boys were younger. And it's something that I had to overcome. It didn't impact my life as being a coach. I didn't allow it to impact my life as a coach. I didn't allow it to impact my job because I work in corporate America. But when I come home at night, I was drinking, and I was drinking heavily. And I decided to make that shift when my boys were very young. My older son was just about to hit the teenage years. I decided to make that shift and stop drinking, and I completely stopped drinking. And now I'm getting ready to go on 12 years completely sober from alcohol. So it's something that was a huge impact for me in the lessons and teaching my boys how to live their life, because I grew up in an alcoholic family and I didn't want them to grow up in an alcoholic family. So that was a habit of mine that I actually stopped doing. I stopped cold turkey because I saw the impact it was having on my family. And it was something that I'm very proud of today.
Awesome. Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm very proud of you as well. Congrats on that. Right. I also grew up in a, like alcoholic family. Right. And yeah, like I don't take any substances. And, I do, take a cup of wine with my wife here and there when we go out and stuff. Now, because like before I used to have this like craving to do it, but not anymore. And now like, I can do it with like no craving, like that has gone away. So it's not part of my identity anymore. And, but I don't need it. So yeah, that's cool, man. Mindset map, motion, measure. So what do you think about measuring and tracking, Bryan?
As far as what, in what perspective, what are you meaning by that?
Life or business?
Well, I think part of that goes back to the board of directors. They really help keep me kind of
accountable and on track.
Accountable, on track. They help keep the ship going the right direction, if you will. There were things that I needed to change over the last year that I had to make a change in. One of the things was self-improvement with reading, a lot of reading, self-help books, things like that. It's something that I was not good at, but they helped me kind of get addicted to reading and improving myself as a person through just learning from others through books and audio tapes. But I think the board of directors is the answer to the question. They're nice. Kind of my guide. And then obviously my family, through the podcast and experience that I've had doing the podcast now for 2.5 years, my family has been super supportive. And that's a huge, huge component to me being successful in what I want to do with this brand, is their support. They have to be able to support me. If they're not supporting my mission, then it makes it a little challenging to maneuver through, trying to grow this brand. So I think between my family and the board of directors, that's kind of been my measure. That's kind of been my tracking that I've done.
That's awesome. And everyone wants money, which is results, right? As a husband, as a father, as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, everyone wants money, right? Results. And if you want that, you got to get your mindset, map, motion, measure, money. You got to get those 4 rights and you'll get it. And Bryan, I've had a lot of fun talking to you, man. Thank you very much for being here. So you already mentioned where we can find your podcast and all of that. But do you have any cool stuff that you may want to let people know about coming or anything?
Yeah, it's interesting. First of all, let me just say thank you for inviting me to be on your show. I appreciate it. I think what you're doing is awesome. Helping men be better men is something that we can all learn from and grow from. There may not be a lot of guys out there that listen to podcasts, but podcasts like this, podcasts like the one Alex has, and there's several others out there, are ways to help us get better. And I always encourage dads in particular, but I always encourage men that in order for you to get better, just focus on getting 1% better each day. If you can, here's the key. If you can focus on getting just a little bit better than you were yesterday, you're successful. And I mean that, because if you're better than you were yesterday and tomorrow you're going to be better than you were today, imagine the compounding effect of that and where you'll be a year from now. A year goes by fast. These times, obviously we see how fast a year can go. Imagine yourself a year from now.
It's already June, man. Like that's crazy.
If you don't take the necessary steps and the necessary measures today to be better than you were yesterday, and you compound on that, if you don't do that, next year, you're just going to be saying, I wish I would have, I should have, I could have, and I didn't. And now you're starting at that point. So imagine a year from now, 5 years from now, even 10 years from now, that time will go by fast. My boys are 23 and 20. I can remember when they were babies, and here we are 20 years later, and time is just gone. So time goes fast. Make a point of just making sure you're getting a little bit better each day. And your life is going to be amazingly better 5 years from now.
Awesome.
And I don't focus on money, Alex, and I say that, and that, we're talking about your show and the things you're doing. My point in doing my show was not to focus on money. My focus was just to make sure I'm there to help dads get better. I wanted to find a way to give back to other men like you're doing. I wanted to find a way to give back to other men to help them be better. And that's what I'm doing with the show. And if money comes from it, great. But the things that I'm working on right now, I've been asked to, speaking events. I got a speaking event coming up in June that I've been asked to speak at. And right now I'm actually in the process of, last year I was on a Father's Day special. I was on CNN. CNN asked me to be on to interview me about my podcast and stuff like that. So I've had amazing things that have happened just from developing the brand and the show. But that wasn't the point. I wasn't looking for that. I was looking more for just helping men be better men for their families, because our legacy starts within the home, not outside the home. And I see so many dads that focus on building their legacy outside their home, yet they're missing all the important things that are right underneath their own roof. So that's that.
And great thought to close this on, man. I really appreciate that. That if I had a button to drop some bombs like Bradley does, I would have dropped a bomb right now. So thanks, man. I appreciate you, and I'll see you later. We'll be connected.
Thank you very much, Alex. I appreciate it, brother.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching the Gentleman's Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with one friend, leave us a comment, and let us know. 99% of people never leave a review or comment, but we love and are very thankful with the 1% of you who do. If there's something or someone you want to see on this podcast, send me a message on Instagram at Alex_Ramirez1020 and let me know. As a thank you for that, I have an amazing surprise for each and every one of you who does take the time to leave us a comment or review on YouTube or one of the major podcasting platforms